Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Cinematic Schematic, the official podcast of the Cinematropolis.com, your home to thoughtful conversations on film. I'm your host, Caleb Masters, and today we were going to review an Avatar movie from James Cameron when all of a sudden,
everything changed when the Fire Nation attacked.
That's right. Today we were reviewing Avatar, Fire, and Ash. Has absolutely nothing in common with the other popular Avatar series that is very beloved. But before we get to our review of James Cameron's third trip to Pandora, we're going to be talking about Rob Reiner, a titan of the industry who we recently lost as our icebreaker section. We'll then get into a spoiler-free review of the film where we'll provide a verdict, and then we'll close out the show, as we always do, with a spoiler-filled analysis discussion. Joining me today on another trip to Pandora, third time's the charm. My co-host, my Natiri to my Jake, the Natiri to my Jake, or maybe the Quaritch to my Jake. Maybe the Quaritch to my Jake, actually. Yeah. Laron Chapman, award-winning filmmaker. Welcome back, sir.
Thanks for having me. Excited is a strong word to say about the movie we're ready to talk about. Not to tip my hat. Not to tip my hat. But
what?
Yes, but excited to hear your thoughts on it. Absolutely.
All right. Mutual respect. So you are the Quaritch to my Jake Sully.
Yeah.
I see you, Laron. I see you.
I see you, friend.
Rejoining us from our last trip to Pandora, she at the time was a newcomer to the Avatar franchise, but now she is seasoned. She has basked in the fire and ash. She is a freelance writer, recently known for contributing to Luxury magazine. Alexandra, Bohannon. Alex, welcome back.
Hello, it's great to have me. Great to be here for this third go-around on Avatar podcasting with Laron and Caleb. It's great. I appreciate going through this journey with you during these times.
Yes.
But be honest, what was your reaction when I reached out and asked about Avatar? Were you like, oh God, now I have to watch that movie?
No, actually, I was kind of heartbroken at the idea of another Avatar coming out without talking to Laron and Caleb, because it's now a Christmas tradition. So I'm very excited that we get to chit chat about it together.
We see you as well, Alex.
We see you. Last but certainly not least, listen, I needed someone who I actually don't know this, but I was hedging my bets might be in my corner, okay? Because I know how the discourse about Avatar on the internet goes. And that is why I reached out to he's another podcast host, producer. He's the principal and founder at Ader Communications, Chad Parizman. Chad, welcome to Pandora.
Great to see you as well, Caleb. Excited to be here with you guys. And yes, another big, showy, blockbuster movie. Always happy to join the pod and talk about those with the crew here.
It's a good time. Chad, most famously, fought a valiant effort to defend Jurassic World Rebirth earlier this year, and he will always have my respect and admiration for sticking it out while me and Laron literally just took shots at it the whole time. Someone had to do it. It was a hard job, and Chad came through. So thank you, Chad, for representing.
Happy to play the role you cast me in, Caleb.
Is Edie Falco the general of the
You're Edie Falco, yeah.
Forces?
Yes.
Now, to be fair though, when I invited you to Jurassic World, I didn't know that was what was going to happen. You just never know with the Jurassic movies how those are going to go.
But I mean, you probably. I mean, I rode hard for Thor: Love and Thunder with you guys.
That's true. Yeah,
that's true.
You also you also the only person living I know who liked Borderlands, so that's also impressive.
Like was like a strong word. Like I
didn't hate.
Let's say I'm probably the only other person you know that saw Borderlands.
Yeah, that's accurate statement. Very. Oh man. Well, this is going to be such a fun conversation, which is why I really hate to bring it down on a sadder, more somber note to get started. But Laron and I, because of our shift to virtual, Caleb now being in Seattle, Laron in Oklahoma City, and in fact, now we are joined by two guests who are in two other cities. So we've now settled on recording on Sundays, and usually Sundays are a pretty quiet day for news. However, mere hours after we recorded our last episode where we discussed Hamnet, we received some really heartbreaking news that we want to talk about because we think it's really, really important to us personally, as well as the film industry, as well as the film discourse happening online. So we're of course referring to the passing of Rob Reiner and his wife. So last Sunday, I guess about a week and a half for listeners by the time you're tuning in, Sunday, December 13th, writer-director, talent Rob Reiner and his wife, Michelle Singer Reiner, were found dead in their Brentwood home. And their son, Nick, was promptly arrested and charged with murder. We're not really going to dwell on the specifics of that, but it's worth noting that as sort of what happened. We want to spend more time talking about is sort of the legacy he's left behind and sort of thinking about the contributions he's made. So instead of doing our typical icebreaker question, we really want to just take a moment to honor and reflect on Rob Reiner. So now this filmmaker, of course, if you're not familiar with his name, if you're tuning into the show, I think that's unlikely, but let's say you're not. He has made many beloved classics that I would argue have shaped our culture. This is Spinal Tap, being a big one. Stand By Me, The Princess Bride, When Harry Met Sally. Here's one that I think people don't even realize he contributed to our culture. The Bucket List, a term that has gone on so much further than the movie in terms of like how we just dropped the term bucket list. A Few Good Men, The American President. And these are films he's done as a writer-director. Additionally, he's appeared in a number of on-screen roles, including All in the Family, Sleepless in Seattle, Wolf of Wall Street. He also made some guest appearances in New Girl, recently The Bear, and actually also this is Spinal Tap 2, most recently, earlier this year. And I guess they also shot This is Spinal Tap 3. I don't know if he was able to complete the post-production on it, but that is a film that has been shot and completed. At least the filming. The filmmaker has also had, outside of just his efforts as a storyteller, an impact on social issues, social justice. Again, he's been very politically active in terms of using his platform and using his voice to fight for causes he believes in. He was the co-founder for the American Foundation for Equal Rights, which initiated the court challenge for Proposition 8 in California. And that actually was the proposition that was banning same-sex marriage in the state of California. So he was a huge part of overturning that, which has really, in a lot of ways, opened that entire conversation up about same-sex marriage across the country and other states as well. Here's one that I thought was interesting. Because he's been so politically active, he was often asked if he was going to run for office. One quote that came up in a couple of obituaries was apparently when Schwarzenegger was running for governor, he was asked if he would run against Schwarzenegger. And he said, I don't want to be an elected official. I want to get things done. So, of course, we want to send thoughts, prayers, respect to his family, who has been through this really devastating tragedy. Though I don't think any of us know his family personally. Do want to send out that love and condolences there. Keeping that in mind, though, I just want to turn it to the group here. I mean, how have the works of Rob Reiner and his wife really impacted our lives? And Laron, I'll start with you. I mean, when you think of Rob Reiner, what sort of comes to mind in terms of like how he's impacted the way you think about the world or move through the world?
I kind of look at him as a stealthy director in the sense that like we don't really refer to him in the same way as like say like a Spielberg, but he's done works very similar to him in terms of like just jumping around with genre. He doesn't have a specific type. He's done horror, he's done fantasy, he's done courtroom dramas. So he's kind of run the gamut on like everything that you can kind of do. And he's always done it with a sense of earnestness. And he has like just cultural milestones. If you go back and look at his filmography, you'll find a movie that you watched as a kid or you watched as a young adult that definitely had like a very significant cultural impact. And so I think he's one of those filmmakers that now in retrospect, we're looking back and just really looking at just how much of an influence he's had, not just through the films he's made, but also through the actors that he's given huge platforms to, whose careers he basically launched, in the early 80s and 90s. So so I'm someone who, again, never referred to him like when I list like my top 10 favorite directors, but then I go back and look at his movies and I'm like, we should be talking about him with the same reverence, given the type of films that he has put out there. So.
Yeah, I think it's a great way to think about it. I mean, he's sort of that journeyman director, going from genre to genre. And it's funny, if you look at the run he had in the 80s and 90s, I mean, it was banger after banger. It's not just like he made one hit and then came back 10 years later. I mean, several of those movies I just mentioned, Princess Bride, When Harry Met Sally, Stand By Me, A Few Good Men. Those were all back to back to back, all in a pretty short period of time, which is super impressive. Alex, what do you think about Rob Reiner? What sort of an impact, or how has he sort of impacted the way you think about film in the world?
He's that person that doesn't necessarily have, unfortunately, that name drop for many people like a Spielberg would. But I remember one of the first times I watched a behind the scenes featurette of a film was for The Princess Bride, and watching him work with the actors on The Princess Bride. That really meant something to me as a kid. And The Princess Bride is one of my favorite Rob Reiner movies. Spinal Tap, When Harry Met Sally, those are also very much in my top list for him. I think also kind of echoing what Laron has said on his impact is this earnestness, the heart that he brings to his film. When apparently he met his wife on the set of Harry Met Sally, and him meeting her on the set caused him to rework the ending. So I didn't get any information on was it supposed to be that they didn't get together at the end or whatever, but I thought that was very poignant that he also had this long time, truly beautiful marriage in the business, a business that often kind of tears people apart and puts people at odds with each other. So we definitely, I also wasn't really aware of his advocacy work until after his death, unfortunately, when we're kind of talking about him and his legacy. But we, in those that love the business, those in the business, and people that just are generally appreciative of culture and art, we really lost a huge person, a huge couple in this field, because they've had such a big contribution in ways that many probably don't even recognize.
Yeah.
So
you mentioned the sincerity piece, Alex, and I think you and Laron both nailed it. Like, they just don't make movies that are sincere like that very often. Now, we are about to talk about one, Avatar, but these are very much the exception these days.
Yeah.
Like, everything has to be like a wink or a nod at the audience, or like really poking fun of itself. And Rob Reiner made movies that wore their emotions on their sleeves with conviction.
Yeah. And when we say sincerity and earnestness, like, sometimes that can be used as a pejorative, when we describe movies, but it's definitely not in this case. It's definitely like, this is what we mean when it's used and employed, very effectively. Particularly what I would now call like our version of the golden age, as we kind of get to more cynical, more nihilistic kind of takes on things, even in our traditional like blockbuster movies. So it is very much of a bygone era where you could put on this movie and it made you feel good. They made you feel good inside. So
yeah, and I mean, again, the pejorative of sincerity is people say, "Oh, that's cheesy. Oh, that's silly." And we just don't get movies that really say what they mean with conviction very often. It's always like, "Oh, I'm going to say what I mean," but then we're going to undercut it with like a joke, or have another character kind of make fun of the thing that you just said, which is way more common today. And so I don't know, when I think about films like, A Few Good Men, The American President, The Princess Bride, like, these movies are about things. They're about values. They're about, patriotism, and a couple of those stories. What does it mean to be an American citizen? What does it mean to be an American leader? What are the values we should aspire to, unironically? So I'm getting on my soapbox about this, but I think like the sincerity bit and the earnestness, I really think, to quote James Gunn's Superman, it's the new punk rock, honestly. Like, it's almost countercultural to be like, no, I say I mean this, and you can make fun of it, but I think it's true. And his movies did that. Chad, how about you? Like, how do you think about the works and life of Rob Reiner?
I mean, for me, so I grew up watching like All in the Family in reruns, and then you cut to like Stand By Me and The Princess Bride being like early HBO breakouts and probably things that I rented at even pre-Blockbuster, like just from the local VHS store. And I think he really, before even maybe Ron Howard, I think he was the first person that I realized like, oh, like that's like the guy that did that did this too. Like the whole kind of like pipeline of like actor to director.
Yeah.
He was probably the first one as like a young teen that I realized like that was a thing, that there were people that like grew up doing this and now jumped and do that. And, you know, what I loved is like, he did, not only did he do so many styles, but he did so many things, right? Like, I mean, you think about, you mentioned some of them, but, you know, even later in life, all the TV cameos and the recurring roles he had, you know, were just like, I just love that he still kind of came back to TV as probably like a first love, you know, a way that like you're still beaming into people's homes, into their living rooms, right? Whereas I think a lot of other people that have gone along that path maybe, you know, have kind of either aged out or egoed out, right, where they just do films. And so I just love that not only did he do so many different styles, but like he just did so many different things. He was just kind of omnipresent. He was everywhere.
Yeah. I mean, again, he sort of did it all to a certain extent. I mean, the writing, directing, acting, you know, advocacy. He also, I mean, I get the sense from all the people who have been coming out and talking about the impact he's had on their careers. It seems like he was doing a lot of work behind the scenes to help a lot of people and a lot of productions out that might not seem obvious, even, you know, even if his name doesn't appear in the credits sort of thing. You know, and I think, again, none of us, you know, live or work in Hollywood, but I think the overwhelming sentiment across political lines, by the way, he's known for his political advocacy, but I mean, there's been a number of people who clearly don't agree with him and his worldviews on things who have come out, you know, sort of championing him in the character and his contributions to their careers, their communities.
As we mentioned, he's all his work is very earnest, and it has kind of a it distills this idea of what good values are, and he made very relatably human stories that I think connect with people across generational divides. You know, like The Princess Bride will continue to be relevant. You know, these movies will continue to be kind of passed down in a traditional sense from family to family and generation to generation. I think that's a true testament to, you know, being such a classic storyteller that he was. So RIP to Rob Reiner, and thanks for all your work.
We've gotten through the somber news. Let's move on to something I'm very excited about, way more excited than Laron, apparently, and that is our review of Avatar: Fire and Ash.
This is the only pure thing in this world. The fire came from the mountain, burnt our forest. My people cried for help. But Ava did not come.
So according to IMDb, Avatar: Fire and Ash is described as Jake and Neytiri's family grapples with grief after Netanyahu's, I'm saying it wrong, see, there you go, their son's death, encouraging a new aggressive Na'vi tribe, the Ash people, who are led by the fiery Varang, as the conflict on Pandora escalates and a new moral focus emerges. You know, we're going to talk about it. That's a cool description. I don't think the movie actually delivers on that description. The second part sounds way more interesting than where we actually end up going. But you know,
new moral focus. Where was that in this movie?
Guys, I'm convinced IMDb is completely AI generated.
Generated,
100%. Yeah.
I use this one. I've been switching to other generic ones online, but I switched to this one because it sounded like a complete thought. But then I'm reading it back. I was like, no, that's not accurate. Well.
The plot points are accurate, but I don't. Yeah, I call shenanigans on the last sentence a little bit. So
I feel like that's what I thought the movie was going to do. We'll talk about that more. A few important fun facts about Avatar: Fire and Ash. This is the third entry in James Cameron's Avatar series that started in 2009. This series contains two of the highest grossing films of all time. And just for context, here are the top five. Avatar 2009, $2.9 billion. Second, Avengers Endgame from 2019, $2.7 billion. Third, Avatar The Way of Water 2022, $2.3 billion. Fourth, Titanic from 1997, 2.2 billion. And this one's the sleeper we haven't talked about enough in 2025. Laron, you and I have failed as film critics to not talk about this. Ne Zha 2, a Chinese animated film, is now the number 5 highest grossing movie of all time at $2.1 billion. So just for some context, Avatar and James Cameron, very, very high bar to clear in terms of money. That being said, the numbers, we're recording this on Sunday, the first numbers are in, and it looks like Avatar Fire and Ash ignited the box office with $88 million domestically here in the U.S., though it does fall considerably short of Avatar The Way of Water's opening weekend of $134 million, but also above the around $70 million of Avatar 1. So the big question, and this is the same question I think we asked on Avatar The Way of Water, is sure, solid enough opening. Is it going to hold? And, Laron, I got to say, we're not talking about creatively. That's the more debatable part of this whole conversation. But my stock in James Cameron paid off. I was saying, don't bet against Big Jim 2022. And guess what? He pulled through. Third highest grossing movie of all time. They said it couldn't be done. And he did it. We didn't know when we did the review if it was going to pay off yet. We didn't know.
I remember, yeah.
It did pay off, though. They kept coming back. It was the number one film in America for 7 weeks in a row.
Yeah.
And then globally had just a huge box office sales. So, again, the history tells me, once again, to not bet against James Cameron. But every time I bet on James Cameron, it's like you won the lottery twice. And you're like, maybe I should just walk away. Maybe I should just stop betting on any director, because every time I do it, I feel like the odds are going to blow back. And on that note, Avatar Fire and Ash is reportedly costing, though this is not official, the reports are $400 million budget for production alone. That does not include marketing budget. Though the only number that James Cameron has revealed is simply 1 metric fuck ton of money in his interview with the Town podcast. And the director continued to say, and that means it needs to make 2 metric fuck tons of money to do a 4th movie. So, yeah, the history is in James Cameron and Avatar's favor, but also that's not, I mean, you got to think if a movie needs to make 2.5 times the spend to be justified. So that's 800. You mean to make about a 1.5 billion to kind of justify doing it.
I'm going to be using those metrics moving forward, just so you're aware.
A metric fuck ton is
fuck ton.
Guys, I'm just sorry. You're going to hear me gush about James Cameron. And that guy, I love that guy. He's great on press tour. He knows how to market stuff. It shows through with his writing, and it's very memorable, very funny. I love it. Principal photography for Avatar Fire and Ash took place concurrently with The Way of Water, which, by the way, has been a couple of minutes ago. It started in September 2017 and completed in November 2018. There were some pickups that were also completed in December 2020. They also filmed a considerable amount of material from the first act of Avatar 4 so they could avoid there being any weird shenanigans with age gaps with the younger cast, because apparently there's going to be, assuming a 4th movie gets made, there will be a considerable time jump in the 4th film. Another thing I want to note here is Avatar Fire and Ash was produced by Cameron's longtime creative partner, John Landau, who passed away tragically at the age of 63. And the two had worked together since Titanic. And assuming it does get made, Landau will receive a credit for Avatar 4. And I thought this one was fun, just to, following the inner workings and behind the scenes business side of it all. You guys ever have a work project? And I don't want to assume everyone has. The more expensive your work project is, typically the more invested your bosses get. And, whenever it's 400 million, you're going to think your boss, or in this case, your boss's boss, is probably going to be very invested in the details of making the thing so that it can be successful, right? So I found it really interesting that apparently Bob Iger's only note, the CEO of Disney, his only note after screening a lengthier cut of Avatar Fire and Ash was to disregard executive notes and called the movie magnificent. Truly bizarre. So again, the story goes, he got notes from other executives. Bob Iger walked in and said, "Nah, those didn't bother me. Ignore those." Crazy. Simply crazy. Okay. All that said, maybe we should give our watchers, viewers, listeners a little refresher on what we thought of the first two Avatar films. And Chad, since you were not on our Way of Water or Redux of Avatar 2009 reviews, we'll start with you. What did you think of the first two films?
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm a full-on stan for these movies. I am the defender in my group of friends that like. We were at a party last night for the holidays, and I was like, "Oh, we're going, first thing tomorrow morning," and they were all kind of like, "Oh, have fun," a bunch of like. One person was like, "I kind of dug that second movie. Like, I feel like he didn't want to go out on a limb," and I was just like, "No, I'm all in." Love those films. Rewatch them on Disney, somewhat regularly. I dug them. I remember the first one. I mean, we have to put our brains in time travel mode of like the 3D during that movie was just unlike anything. Like the only thing that we had probably seen at that point was like if you went to a theme park, right? If you went to like Disney and Universal, like those are the only people putting that much effort into 3D at the time. And I think, he just continues to up the bar, like not to give away too much in this third one, but I just think that the technicals of it alone, and the fact that he's, able to marry maybe a basic story, but like a heartfelt and heartwarming story along with all of the technology. I mean, to your point earlier, like just never bet against James Cameron.
Yes. History tells me it would be a fool's errand to do so, even if it feels riskier every time you bet on him. Okay, so Chad's coming in real hot. Team Avatar. Alexandra Bohannon. Now, when we reviewed the last one, you had not seen the first one, so you watched the first one for our show, and then you proceed to watch the second one immediately afterwards. Remind us what were your thoughts on Avatar at the time, as you recall, and how do you think about it now?
Yeah, no, I think that all of these films have a very similar through line for me. I thought they're all masterpieces in cinematic achievement. I mean, the technology it takes. I watched a bunch of behind the scenes featurettes on both Way of Water and Fire and Ash just to really wrap my head around production. And gosh, that process is wild. And what everyone had to go through, what the actors had to go through, everything involved in the technical production and the acting achievements in these films are truly remarkable. I think many of the themes, especially the indigenous issues that we've talked about in our past reviews, they make me a little uncomfortable. Well, they make me pretty uncomfortable at times, and that can put up a barrier between me and like fully just throwing it all off and like enjoying and sinking into the film. I do find that the themes of family, I think that's really, if we're looking at not just the cinematic achievement, just pretend that these are just people, normal non-blue people talking in rooms. Like if we're just looking at like what the story is, I think the themes of family and overcoming trials together as a family, I think that's where Big Jim is the most successful across all the films. But yeah, basic story to echo Chad's perspective, definitely in those first two. And I think sorry, I couldn't remember, Caleb, my bad. If you had already mentioned that it was split into.
Not yet. Yes. Oh, good note. Yes. So context, I think I might have missed that. Important note. Avatar, The Way of Water, and Fire and Ash were originally they were one script originally, and there was too much, so they broke it into two scripts for these two movies. Yeah. Which, as we'll talk about in a moment, makes a good amount of sense when you put it in that context, why the third film plays the way it does, I would say.
Yeah, and it makes, with that like context in mind that Caleb had shared with us, to me that tees up, it makes me look at two more favorably, actually, with that in mind. So anyway, those are just my kind of thoughts on the past two films. Crowning a cinematic achievement, but we could ask for more in terms of the story, for sure.
Sure. I think that's a fair criticism, even if I don't always agree. It's fair. It's fair. Laron Chapman, remind us, what did you think of the first two Avatar films?
I mean, I'll say this: the original Avatar, like when I was 18 or 19 when it came out. I mean, yes, that still to this day checks the box as one of the 5 best movie going experiences I've ever had. As you mentioned, I mean, he was the North Star in terms of the technological advances with movies, what cinema could be, what the Hollywood blockbuster could be. I mean, I think he was already kind of laying the groundwork for that with even his earlier work, but he just kind of continued to evolve in that regard. And I could see why at the time, that first film in particular was so groundbreaking and so mesmerizing and immersive for so many people, because I was one of those people. And I do think as I've just evolved as a film, as a film goer, with each subsequent movie, I'm overly impressed again with the look and feel of these movies, the technical scope of these movies, the muchness of these movies. And I find, to Alex's point, the making of these movies I find incredibly fascinating. The movies, with each subsequent, I've started to feel like, with the first one to the second one, it's like what once felt like, again, the North Star, is kind of feeling like we're going back to the well, and it's kind of becoming more nostalgic. And instead of feeling like it's forward thinking, it's feeling more like we're kind of going back to what we've done before. So I've kind of felt that way with The Way of Water, where I thought it looks better than the last one. The technology looks better than the last one, but I still feel like the storytelling hasn't evolved in a significant enough way for me to justify why we need to continue in this world, but that being said, I mean, I like both of the first 2 films. I think the second one is a slight improvement in terms of character. Like, we got a little bit more with the family dynamic, the Sully family. I really appreciated that. I feel like the quieter moments, the more intimate moments in these Avatar movies are what I long for more than anything. Because I do think the first film, like, it's a lot of discovery. It's like unfolding of these things. And so that was what we marinated in so much. And I think now that we've reached that point, we got to just keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And I think we get further and further away from what I think works best in these movies is, again, that kind of earnest, unabashed sentimentality, and that love of family is the strongest component of this. But I feel like the plotting in these movies and the interminable lengths at this point have started to wear on me and my interest with this particular franchise.
Yeah, I disagree with almost all of that. No, not that strongly. So here's the thing. I think I said this a couple of years ago, or I guess 3 years ago now. Avatar 1 in that moment felt like that was the closest I was ever going to get to experiencing Star Wars: A New Hope for the first time. The technology, the world, the graphics, Pandora was so vibrant and lived in. The amount of detail and the not just the actual technology, but also the artistry for the set designs, production designs. I thought the score was incredible. It's a movie that is not held up as much. The first one, the experience holds up, and it always will. The movie did not hold up as well for me. I do think some of the issues that Alex mentioned around, sort of, maybe more indigenous people should have been consulted on the film. But also, it's a mixed bag, because I've also seen indigenous people say they're happy that he's making these movies to raise awareness around the issues. So if you want to hear us talk about that, we talk about that specific component quite a bit more in our Avatar 1 re-review and Avatar Way of Water review. So I don't know that we're going to belabor that here, but it is a thing that if it really irks you, it's going to, as Alex said, put up a barrier for how much you're going to be able to enjoy with it if you're constantly thinking, this is kind of problematic. And the answer is it probably is for me. Now, that said, I actually thought the second movie did a really smart thing that allowed them to sidestep a lot of that, because the first movie is it's Jake Sully becoming the Avatar and sort of becoming that sort of like white savior trope sort of thing. He comes in and does things better than everyone there, yada, yada. We've talked about that. The second film introduces the family, and Jake Sully is a Na'vi. He's becoming the Na'vi. He just is. So what that allows us to do is build on the family unit, and it felt like a Swiss Family Robinson on Pandora. I don't agree with I really don't agree. I think the second movie is actually doing things quite a bit differently than the first movie. There are some of the themes of environmentalism and imperialism that are very similar, but I think, again, the family unit, exploring the different tribes, and then, Laron, like the sense of discovery for me in the second one really is all of the underwater stuff that you did not get in the first movie. So for me, I still felt that sense of like awe and discovery when you're seeing like all these characters swimming underwater with all this new sea life and the toucan, or I like, it's all just so cool. And it feels like the second one really feels like a hangout movie that also concludes with the Titanic, but on Pandora. And Big Jim knows how to direct sinking ships. Okay. And I don't know how to say it, but he didn't just do it again. He did it with like a whole war happening on the ship as it's sinking. And there's like space whales part of it. And it's truly one of the most impressive things I've ever seen. And I did rewatch it in preparation for this review, and I was like, you know what? It is long in the tooth. It's long because they want you to be immersed in the world. They want you were talking about the quieter moments, Laron. There's so many lengthy, like underwater moments where you're meant to like just like take it in and like feel like you're on the ride with the characters. And that's what I liked about the second movie. I don't know that it plays as well at home, if I'm being honest, but the moments that really hit the family dynamic, the spider character, which we'll talk more about specifically this third one, the sort of the dynamics between Quaritch, Spider, and then the Sully family are really compelling to me. And I think they continue to build off those in the third film. So overall, I'm pretty favorable. I don't understand most of the criticisms that people say it's too repetitive for the first two. We'll talk about it for three, but like I feel like those are two different movies. There is overlap in the kind of themes they're exploring, but the way they're exploring them and the types of plotting they're doing and character work they're doing is very different in my mind. That does take us to Avatar 3, though. Fire and Ash. Important clarifying question, very quickly. How did we all watch the film, like from a format? Because you can watch it in 2D, you can watch it in 3D, you can watch it in 3D IMAX, you can watch it in Dolby, you can watch it in 3D IMAX, high frame rate. So just real quick, so everyone of the audience knows where we're coming from. Chad, how did you see this film?
3D XD, which is Cinemark's premium format.
Very nice. Was yours in the higher frame rate or like the standard 24 frames per second? Do you know?
It felt like a high frame rate, but I am not 100% certain. There were scenes that felt more, I'll say, video game-ish.
Yeah.
That had that like look of the other. I've done a couple other movies in that high frame rate, like The Hobbit. It had that same type of look. So I don't know if it was specifically that or just that's how the movie. I don't know what your all's experience was like.
I do want to know, with the high frame rate, they're burying the lead on the marketing for that. It's not usually obvious unless you like look at the details of the screening specifically that you would know that you were buying a ticket to an HFR screening. Alex, what format did you see it in?
So I saw it in 3D, but it was Regal's proprietary format of RPX, which is their Dolby or their IMAX, I guess. So yeah, 3D IMAX. It was not the
IMAX will tell you very much that it is
not
the same as
same. Right. It was definitely not HFR because I have a very keen eye for that, and it was.
Yes.
It was not. None of that was in there. Thank God. I hated it.
Laron, Chapman, how about you? Do you know how you saw this one?
I saw it in IMAX 3D. Like Chad, I don't know if it was in the high frame rate, but there were sequences that, like, particularly like right when it first started, because we kind of jumped right into the flying stuff right at the first scene. And I was like, okay, it's doing that herky-jerky thing where it feels like everything is sped up, like so.
You definitely saw an HFR then. Yeah,
okay.
HFR, yeah. Okay. Yeah, again, they don't... You have to know what to look for. Like I went and saw this at the Seattle National Film Festival downtown, which is formerly Seattle's Cinerama downtown that got closed during COVID, and SIF came in and saved it. Thank God. It's a really great theater, great chocolate popcorn. It is, I don't know what the format, it's a large scale format, but it's not IMAX, but it is definitely much, much larger than standard.
Yeah.
And they are only showing it in the 3D HFR. So I'm eager to when I revisit this a second time, I plan to go do the traditional 3D IMAX, probably maybe Dolby, but probably IMAX, and hopefully without the HFR. I'm so torn about the HFR because especially at the beginning of the run, you nailed it. It feels kind of herky jerky at first because you're like, whoa, this is weird. But once you get into it, and the way is, it's not just HFR the whole time. Like The Hobbit, like he does a thing where like the dramatic scenes actually look like they're standard, like 24 frames per second. But then when the action starts, it ramps up and things get like smoother. And what I've noticed is it does make the 3D effect much better because it's much clearer. But then also, Alex, to your point, the video gaminess of it for the things that don't work as well stick out like a sore thumb.
Oh, yeah. Not my favorite.
Well, Alexandra Bohannon, what are your overall thoughts on Avatar, Fire, and Ash?
I get to kick it off. All right. Well, my thoughts were, I can tell, to, again, Caleb's note earlier, Way of Water, Fire and Ash, really one large movie in terms of plotting. And it feels like they're very repetitive because, say, the original scope of this movie, it was going to be like a 5-hour movie. Well, whenever you split it into two, well, you can fit an hour worth of more material in either the first or the second, so we can add more things, and we have a lot of very repetitive notes across both of these films. I think my favorite parts of the film were the growth of the children and Jake and Neteri's relationship. The family dynamics, again, work the best for me. The Sully stick together parts, all of those moments. Again, those tender, small moments, like whenever Jake and Neteri are in the tent and he comes behind her and hugs her. Like, those are the moments that really work the best for me. I mean, the spectacle at this point is so good that you don't have to talk about it anymore. That's kind of where I'm at in terms of the visual experience. I remember thinking this, I don't know, probably around when the first Avatar came out, even though I didn't see it in theaters, is like, there's going to be a point where we get with CGI and visual effects, non-practical visual effects in film, that they're going to be so good that we don't have to talk about how good they are. They're just another paintbrush by which to tell the story. We have kind of a weaker story here, but those moments, there's diminishing returns on those spectacle effects because they have been so good, and I'm almost inoculated to them. There's just one scene in particular, though, that really struck me. It's less of like, oh, we've got this giant hot air balloon airship it's gorgeous. I mean, it's going through and all of the big battles and everything. None of that was like the thing that grabbed me. There's this one scene, I'm not going to spoil the scene because it's kind of a specific moment in the film, where Jake and Neteri are standing in a stream and Spider is near them. And there's a light that casts across Neteri's face, and you just see not just the texture of her pores, but also the texture of this war paint that's on her. Mm-hmm. And that was what really had me. I'm like, oh my God, this isn't. I had to take myself out of myself and like, this is not a real person that is blue, that has like a cat nose. This is composited graphics based on someone's real face. I think it's the faces specifically in this that really kind of grabbed me in that way. I think that overall, the things that I don't like about this movie are the same things I didn't like about the either two previous movies, like the indigenous issues, the weaker story, some of the tropishness that doesn't necessarily do any subversion, it just exists to exist. And overall, I think the performances, I think Zoe Saldana, like, she's so incredible. She's probably my favorite part of the film. Now she gets top billing also, if you guys noticed that. Yeah. So I think
Oscar helps,
It really does, yeah. So I
step aside, Sam Worthington. This is my movie now.
Yeah, basically. I think people, if they're interested in the film, should go see it. it's just not gonna be. It's not my style of movie. It's awesome, but it's just not my style of movie, and that's okay. Regardless of problematic things, regardless of whatever analysis you want to put on it, like I prefer a more. It has a lot of heart, of course, but I prefer more of like a maybe a more grounded story, one that has more story, in fact, and has characters, deeper characters kind of exploring themselves. That might be more my bag, and that's more my preference. So that's kind of my thoughts on the movie.
Okay. So overall, generally enjoyed the experience, but also not something you're necessarily like hungry for more, with a few notable qualms that are kind of keeping you a little bit detached. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fair. Chad Parizman, what did you think of Avatar Fire and Ash?
No, this is my type of movie. 100%. There's been a lot of consternation the last few weeks on the future of the cinema experience, and this is the movie that gets people to leave their homes. That gets people to leave their homes at 10 a.m. on a Sunday morning, which is I literally saw this less than an hour before we started recording. I walked out of the theater, and it was almost a fully packed theater at 10 a.m. at my theater on a Sunday. So, if you are interested in keeping movie theaters alive, we need movies like this. For the person that goes to see 2 or 3 movies a year, this is the type of movie that gets them to leave the theater. And I think in that it is a successful experience. I think it is for the average moviegoer, it delivers kind of all of you want. You guys have said it already, right? We get explosions, we get heartfelt, we get family. It does not challenge you in any new way, right? It does. I mean, it makes you think in kind of all of the best ways, but not in any real difficult way.
Right.
That's a good way to put it.
Knowing that we were going to record this right after, I mean, I had that kind of my hat on there, and not to say this is not a perfect movie. There definitely it is long in the tooth. I will give them that. But to me, kind of, and not to give like anything away, and I know we'll get the spoilers later, but if you like Return of the King, I don't think there's a reason that you should not like this movie. And I think there's a lot of parallels.
I'm going to go a step further, and this is going to get me yelled at because Star Wars is toxic and having an opinion about it is apparently just such a rude thing to do. It's a lot like Return of the Jedi.
Yes.
Like a lot like Return of the Jedi. Anyway, yeah, great point.
For sure. I think, if you look at, and again, James Cameron, it's interesting, again, like I've seen more from James Cameron kind of promoting this movie than any of the individual actors. Again, that might be partly because maybe we don't recognize them, partly because some of these kids probably, we've now had the Stranger Thing effect where like, these kids that were maybe like, between 9 and 15 are now like somehow in their probably early 30s at this point by the time the movie has come out. But I've seen him, talk more about it. And like, I mean, I think you should be going in that like, this is a trilogy. This wraps up a trilogy. And I think if we get more movies, it is, sure, there are some strings, but I think that this puts a pretty neat bow on a lot of the things that were started in the first one. And again, in that way, it is effective, and it kind of does the job that I think it needed to do.
Yeah. All right. So Chad Parizman coming in very favorable. Laron Chapman, what did you think of Avatar: Fire and Ash?
Yeah, so I want to preface by saying I did not hate this movie. That is an important
great starting point. That's the
baseline that I'll put that there. I did not hate this movie. I think though, I said to myself I was not going to check my watch during this. I was like, I'm gonna shoot myself in the foot because I know how long the movie is going in. And somewhere I think I did. It was about what I wanted to look at. It's like it feels like we're at the climax. It feels like we're reaching towards a climax here. And I looked at it. I had only watched an hour and 45 minutes, and so I said,
several climaxes.
I said, oh boy, we still have a feature-length movie to watch here. And I think that to me sums up, like, in general, like, I appreciate the look and the vibe and the feel of these movies. Again, as a technical level, I'm not a curmudgeon who's like, like, who cares? Like, it's pretty, like, I mean, I see the artistry here made and the meticulous detail that's put into the world building here. I'm just a writer first. And in terms of when my approach to movies, like, and I just feel like, as a story, I'm like, I've heard this, I've seen this. It's not saying anything substantially new about any of this stuff. And so that's fine for me in a truncated length. But for 3 hours and 15 minutes, if you're not moving mountains at that point and telling me anything significantly new, then it starts to feel tedious. And for me, unfortunately, at that 2 hour mark, the last hour of this movie was a slog for me to get through. But
that hurts because the last hour is so freaking cool. What are you?
Generally, yes, that's how I think this is an impressively made movie on a technical level. I just wish I cared more, unfortunately.
All right. Well, that's totally reasonable. And I feel like this is a pretty good balance, cast for this movie, this podcast rather, rather than, us dogging, ganging up on chat about, Jurassic World Rebirth. Here's what I'll say. I'm more mixed on this one than the other two, but I would say the highs are a lot higher and the lows are a little lower. So what I mean by that, let me start by talking about the highs, the things I love about this. James Cameron is still the best to do it. He is still the best to make action sequences. He is the best to innovate with technology. He is obsessed with the detail. I saw in an interview one time, he's like, oh, I love the engineering challenges of these movies. And he's like, because, you just get to invent stuff. And he's like, sometimes people come and say, does the film need this? And I say, well, let me ask you this. Did the 10 Commandments need to have all those extras serving as the Israelites? No. What did it need it? Did it need it? It was really freaking cool. And you know what you remember? That those people did a real thing. So he is obsessed with hitting a certain bar of quality and detail and like sort of hyper reality because it's all on a computer that no one else. Maybe George Lucas, when he was tinkering with the prequels, might have been sort of approaching the goal that Cameron is actually achieving here in terms of like just the technology, the world building, and the commitment to the craft. Okay, and I'm sorry, I've had this fight mostly from Avatar haters. Someone said, "Oh, it looks like an MCU movie." I'm like, "You're crazy. You're drunk. Go home. I cannot respect your opinion about visual effects because the artistry
yeeted off this planet. Obviously,
I'm like, I get that you don't like it. That's okay, but
I'll fight that case for sure.
Me too. Good God.
These are the best looking movies of this type of
gorgeous.
film.
Yeah. Oh my God.
So I just want to like really plant my feet there. I think there's tons of other criticism to be had with these movies, and if they're not for you, they're not for you. But to say something like that, I'm like, the action has weight. Characters are flying around, they're swimming with whales, and I know where they're all at. I feel like when someone takes a punch or gets shot, I feel it. I'm invested enough in this the mechanics of the battle that I'm like, oh, I don't know how this is going to go down, and that is a truly exciting thing that is so rare because Alex, as you said, that at some point CG will just be another paintbrush that VFX paint with. Well, there's artistry there because what we've seen over the last decade is even though we have more resources for this than we've ever had before, people are not wielding it responsibly or to effectively tell stories with spectacle at the scale. So
if anyone says those claims, they should go watch Black Adam and then come back to watch Avatar. Just give yourself a little palate cleanse of what the other side tastes like. See and feel the pain.
None of the Avengers movies, like none of them are even in the same, like this is like not even the same league as far as I'm concerned with spectacle. Okay. The spectacle, great spectacle, not a great movie make. What I will say though is I agree with Alex's point. I actually think the family drama in this movie is the best it's been by a lot. I appreciated the first movie, the characters, I liked them, but I didn't feel like emotionally invested in them. And in the second movie, I liked the idea of the family dynamic. I liked the characters. I liked sort of the drama, that we got to experience with the tensions, the theme of this family as a fortress sort of thing. That stuff's great. This is the movie where it gets complicated, though. And, there is a really, in my opinion, compelling sort of like where are we going with this between Neytiri, Jake, Spider, and Quaritch that I was genuinely invested in. And I felt rewarded by the film overall because you've got characters that are their emotional interests are all in different outcomes. And you're not really sure who's going to win or where Spider's going to land on things because he's still like a teenager. So that stuff I was leaning into, I was eating it up. So I think it's the best family drama we've got. And last but not least, I know it's sort of related to spectacle, but like I just want to reiterate, it's not just the spectacle, it's the cinematic moments. The moments when you see it, you're just like, holy cow, I have never seen that before. I'm going to be thinking about that for years. There's a lot of things from the third act. The third act's a lot of noise, but there's some really, truly cool, like I get chills thinking about the moments that are unfolding on the screen. Similar to how in the second movie, there's a couple of the scenes where the teenagers are swimming with the whales, for example, the space whales, for example. Like those are like images. And when you just see it, it's like awe-inspiring. I'm like, man, that is the power of cinema that, to Chad's point, I think is really what gives me hope that like there are still new things to experience through the lens of technology that hopefully is enough to get people back out to the theater. Okay. These are all positive things. Things I did not like. And I think this is largely because this is technically Way of Water Part 2. This is the first time I've ever seen a James Cameron movie that felt like another James Cameron movie. And that's why I kind of disagree with you earlier, Laron. I actually don't think Avatar Way of Water is doing the same thing Avatar 1 is. I think they're exploring things from a very different perspective, shifting from an individual, Dances with Wolves to like a Swiss Family Robinson story with the technology. But you think about, Aliens. You think about, he made Terminator 1, which is basically like a horror serial killer movie. And then he makes Terminator 2, one of the greatest action movies of all time. It's still one of my favorite movies of all time. You think even True Lies is sort of ahead of the curve in terms of like, xenophobia towards, Middle Eastern, Islamic, folk. He's doing things that no one else is doing. He's turning genres on their head, and it's constant reinvention, constantly rethinking things we've probably seen before from a totally different angle. And even Avatar 1. Let's remember, James Cameron had made his name off of making the Marines look like badasses as the good guys in Aliens. And then what did he do? He made them the bad guys of Avatar 1. So he's constantly pushing himself and the audience. And this is the first time where I simply don't think he did that. Because it is retreading a lot of things we've seen before thematically from a storytelling perspective. There are new things in this movie that I think if he had invested more time in those, I would have may have felt differently. Most specifically, Una Chaplin's Varang and that entire Ash tribe, there was an idea there that I really, really wanted to sit with and spend more time with. And the movie starts, you spend about the first 20 or 30 minutes when Quaritch is talking with you, you're like, oh man, we're cooking. And then by the last act, it's like, they're just going to push it to the side. We're really not going to go further with that.
If this was like a Lord of the Rings or more recently a Wicked, where these movies had come out maybe even 18 months apart or, back to back a year, do you think that you would still feel that way?
I feel like the Ash people it's underbaked.
I agree. Okay, I'll give you that. But
on the other hand,
it doesn't feel different enough.
Right.
This is more of like it's a trilogy, but this feels more like a duology. I agree with that. I think it feels it feels different because we had to wait 3 years from that last movie to this one.
Totally valid on that front. I guess the last thing, to wrap up my big speech. I think this is a great movie. I think this is a great time at the cinema. I think people should go see it. I think they're going to see things they've never seen before. I just have more caveats with this one than the last two. And, if we are going to get 2 more, and honestly, jury's still out because this movie does have to make a ton of money for us to get a 4th one. I really hope whatever Big Jim has in store for number 4 is a lot different than what we got with 2 and 3. Not that I don't like 2 and 3, but like I do remember him specifically on the press tour for 2 being like, oh, the 4th one. I really hope I get to make that one because it's going to be, and that might just be marketing, but also it worked on Caleb. So, okay. The last thing I'll say though, the Last Jedi or the Return of the Jedi comparisons. You say Lord of the Rings, Chad. I think that's valid as well. Big epic spectacle. Think about this. Oh, it's a movie that is revisiting things we've seen before, but it's doing so with more emotional depth, higher personal stakes, and spectacle on an entirely new level. And that is The Return of the Jedi. And I love The Return of the Jedi, but it is still blowing up the Death Star again with a way cooler, more badass space dogfight sequence. It is, yes, we're fighting Darth Vader again, but this time there's the personal conflict of Luke Skywalker. And I think this movie is kind of delivering the same thing. It's like, yeah, we've seen it before, but it's doing it bigger and better and with more emotional complexity. So last food for thought there. Anyway. Caleb's been talking way too long. How would you guys compare this to the last 2 Avatar films? Chad, I'll throw it to you. If you're talking about this as a duology, you seem most favorable. What do you think?
I mean, if I were to rank them, I think it goes 1 for like the sheer audacity, probably then this one, and then number 2. That might be recency. I don't know. I think that this one, again, because of the way that it's written and done everything, like this wraps it up in a much better way. I think just while it is long, I just think end to end, there are better parts of this. And on that, I would judge it better than Way of Water.
Okay. So this one's higher up the Way of Water, but number 1's still the GOAT in terms of Avatar movies.
Yeah. I think I get like, I mean, because it's been what 14 years, however
16
years. If you guys want to get triggered for a second, I went to a smoothie bar the other day and I was talking about, I'm going to see Avatar in a little bit, blah, blah, blah. The first one came out in 2009 and my person taking the order I was like, man, things are so different in 2009. She's like, yeah, ha ha ha, I was 4. I'm like, oh, ha ha ha, that's nice for you.
Give me my coffee and leave me alone. Give me my smoothie and leave me alone.
Exactly.
The conversation just ends and you walk away.
First I was like, oh, I was 14. I'm like, no, I think she said I was 4, and I did the math and college town and all that. But yeah.
So, yep. Time comes for all of us. Alexandra Bohannon, how would you compare this to the previous 2 films, and how would you rank them?
Yeah, so this is a good question. I would actually say that Fire and Ash is probably my favorite Avatar movie. But being asked this question is kind of like, Alex, what's your favorite white chocolate candy bar? White chocolate isn't necessarily my favorite type of candy to eat. So it's like, oh, I guess it's going to be the Hershey's cookies and cream candy bar. And I'll eat that for sure. But at the end of the day, it's like, oh, if I were given options with like, ooh, how about the 70% dark chocolate? And that's what I really want to be eating. You know what I mean? So it's, Fire and Ash is my favorite of the series so far, but it also is like my favorite of a genre of movie or this series of movies that I'm not like die hard, hella excited, yeah, let's do it. I probably would have seen it without the podcast because of the spectacle and like that kind of momentous occasion, but I haven't rewatched any of them at home because also on your tiny little TV at your house without the whums of the Dolby or any of that. I mean, it just seems a little more empty. So yeah, that's kind of, I think it's the family drama to echo pretty much the kind of the consensus of the table. The family drama here is my favorite. It's the stuff that resonates the best with me. And Netteri's grief of losing her child. Yeah. Like, I mean, all of that is particularly poignant. I thought it was the stuff that worked the best. It's like, I don't care about capitalists going whaling. Like, who cares? Like, that's not my thing. But yeah,
I mean, I don't, seeing the capitalists going whaling get like demolished was pretty cathartic in the year of our Lord 2025.
Yeah, we can do more of that in spoilers. That felt good. But at the end of the day, it's like, you know, yeah, that's those tender moments. Those are my dark chocolate Hershey's or whatever. So
white chocolate pretzels, favorite Christmas treat every year. I'm going to go have one right after this podcast. Thanks, Alex. Laron Chapman. Oh, wait, sorry, Alex. So, Alex, how would you rank them real quick?
Oh, yeah. So I would probably say this one. Oh, man, I have to choose between 1 and 2. Okay, so 3 is first. Ooh. Probably 1, just because that's what kind of kicks us off. And I know like some of the narratives are a little uncomfortable, but 2 just kind of felt like, oh, we're just teeing up everything. And then 3 is like kind of the pay. Things happen in 2, but like 3 is kind of like the payoff of a lot of that stuff. And I also thought that I've made peace with it now, but I still find that Sigourney Weaver's Avatar had a baby clone of. I still think that is a little bit weird.
What? No, it's not. It's Jesus. It's Jesus. We're gonna talk about the spoilers. It's Avatar Navi Jesus. Come on.
Yeah.
Come on.
She's
like Immaculate Conception.
One. Yeah, I know. At Christmas time, so it is a Christmas movie. Congratulations, Caleb.
There we go. She basically, in so many words in this movie, not to spoil it, says, "My God, why have you forsaken me?"
We didn't even need the snow. We didn't even need the snow, guys. It's there.
Oh my gosh. All right. Well, Laron Chapman, how would you compare this to the previous 2 films, and what would your ranking be?
Yeah, I want to clarify. I think the second one is marginally better than the first one from a storytelling element. I do believe that. I just think that the experience of the first one is what resonated with me the best at that particular time. And we're also seeing it for the first time. It's kind of like we make this argument about like The Matrix, for example. When we saw The Matrix in the 90s, that was revolutionary. But then, like you mentioned to your smoothie girl, they probably have seen a million movies that have mimicked and used what The Matrix started in that regard on a technological sense. So it's not impressive for them to go back and rewatch, The Matrix. So, but we know what that was like. And so that sticks with us a lot deeper, I feel like, for me, if I'm ranking these, I would say I think The Way of Water is probably the overall best from a storytelling element for me personally. And then the experience of the first one has to rank high for me. So I'm going to put Avatar there for the second one. And then this one, while again, I think it's just as impressive on a technological level as the last one. So all of that stuff is still like impressive to look at, but but I found the story to be the weakest of the 3. And so I would put Avatar, Fire and Ash at the bottom, because I kind of described the experience of that. Like, we all go to art museums, and we go and look at something pretty, and we're like, that's really gorgeous. Not for 3 hours. That's what I'm saying. So, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, it's pretty. I appreciate that. It's really good. I can tell, I can see the brush strokes and all the things. That's great. But, I don't want to look at it for that long, and so that's basically how I felt when I left this one, which I didn't feel from the last 2. I should say that. Like, I didn't find the last 2 tedious. I found the first 2 enjoyable on a very basic, like, blockbuster spectacle sense in that regard. Like, as just like I'm seeing a popcorn movie that has the best looking, technology of these kinds of movies. But this one was the first one where the story for me just kind of felt, I don't want to say directionless, because there's definitely a lot of things that are happening that are being teed up or being called back to. But I found the narrative beats way too similar to the last one for me to differentiate these or say that this one rises above the one I saw previously. So
you didn't think we needed a third meeting with the Ents? I mean, the whales.
No, and can you please type my entire review in papyrus font?
Yes, the yellow.
Jesus Christ! Every time the whales talk, I've grown a little bit. I'm like,
Ryan Gosling is having a meltdown again over that papyrus font. I gotta say. Okay, so here's another question for you, Laron. Chad asked me, would I feel the same way I did if it had come out like really close together, like like The Matrix Reloaded to Revolutions? Do you think? Okay, so it was 13 years between the first one and Way of Water. Only 3 years between Way of Water and this, which means it's a lot fresher in our minds. do you think if we waited 13 more years, do you think you would feel the same way about Fire and Ash?
There would have been enough time passed for me to not make those clear, just like those clear like overlaps, or like, I just saw this, or we just did this, that sort of thing. I think I do think some time would have helped. Because I'll say, like, when the Way of Water came out, I was like actually excited to see it because I remembered the first experience of Avatar. Then I saw it and I was like, yeah, it looks prettier, but I guess I'm not who I was when I was 18 or 19 when I watched it. You know what I mean? Like, this particular story just doesn't resonate with me the way that it did when I was that age. And so I think that's the best way I could summarize my critiques of these movies, is that I'll continue to love and be impressed by how they look. But I still expect something, I don't know, something not as, I don't want to use the word derivative because that's, but it does feel like I've heard I've seen these stories, I've seen these tropes in these movies, some of them in his own movies, like he's gone back to that, some similar things that I've seen in the Terminator, or, even the Abyss comes to mind. So there's certain things that he likes to explore that I'm like, I like this better when it was in the Abyss, so.
One also wonders if the structure, okay, between 1 and 2, these movies are so, I mean, they have entirely different focuses, but 2 and 3, and like there's this huge time lapse between them. And a lot of diehards, like, I mean, I'm not a diehard, but a lot of us went to go rewatch the first one to then tee us up for the second one. I don't know if that's going to be everybody, because that does inform everything, but they do like an exposition dump at the start of 2. And then 2 to 3, I wonder somewhat also, and this is not like a positive critique of these movies, but if they're echoing those plot points because there's been just enough time that's elapsed that someone probably wouldn't necessarily go rewatch the first one again. If they're like, oh yeah, I kind of remember the stuff that happened. I mean, that's what I did, honestly, was like, oh, I kind of remember this. I'll read the Wikipedia and I kind of got a good gist of what happened. So just for like the people, because there's this sweet spot of time that's passed, then a lot of repetitive motifs happened in the third movie because we're trying to drive home these themes in this plot, and Big Jim could have this as a 5-hour movie. And so it's like he's hammering it all home because you might not have watched the second one again going into the third one. I don't know. That was just something I was like, meh, I wonder.
He's definitely trying to make it as accessible as possible by sort of like, pseudo recapping the last movie at the beginning of the next one. So here's the thing. I did rewatch Way of Water the week before seeing Fire and Ash. Now I wasn't close watching it. Frankly, it's 3.5 hours, and it's also, it's the end of the year. So I was doing some other stuff, while I was watching. So I wasn't close watching, but I did have it on because I was like, what are the beats I need to follow? And I want to make this comparison, and I also want to be very clear. I'm not saying the Avatar movies are as good as the Lord of the Rings movies, but but I'm not, because I don't think that's true. But I will say, I think Chad raises a great point, and it also the Star Wars movies, OG trilogy, in terms of how they connect parts 2 and 3 as sort of like the end of the story, or even the Pirates of the Caribbean sequels.
Oh boy!
I like those movies. I really like them. Now they're not as good as the first movie, but man, they're a lot of fun. I guess my point is, though, I think Chad, you raised a great point. I think watching 2 and then 3 almost within like 48 hours of the second one, it does become very clear that this is like the payoff for the second movie. The Two Towers has the Battle of Helm's Deep, right? And that is probably my favorite battle in all the Lord of the Rings movies. The Way of Water has the coolest swimming sequences, bar none. And the sinking Titanic is the payoff. I mean, amazing. But the emotional payoff is in the third movie. So for me, I was a lot more invested and the characters and where the story was going in 3. And when you watch them back to back in the same way that you kind of have to see, the Two Towers and get the full emotional payoff in Return of the King, or you have to see Empire Strikes Back and you get the full emotional payoff for that story in Return of the Jedi. I think Avatar 3 operates similarly. Now, I want to reiterate, I do not think the Avatar movies are as good as those movies. Just to make it crystal clear, I think those movies are all better. But that said, I don't necessarily think, for that reason, I think even though Way of Water is probably a more consistent movie, I would rank Fire and Ash higher. Because I think the spectacle is the best it's been. And I think for me, emotionally, the payoff was there, even if it's less consistent and more repetitive. Then I would probably do the OG, just because the thing that we've all said, the experience of watching that for the first time is pretty much unmatched still to this day. And then the Way of Water. But I do really like all three of them. Again, if we're saying trilogies, I do not think I would put it in the same category as Lord of the Rings and the original Star Wars trilogy. What I might talk about putting it in is the same category as the Hobbit trilogy, maybe, or actually, I need to be careful.
Is it better than Dark Knight Rises?
Oh, that's a low blow. That's a low blow.
Caleb, you don't own Way of Water in 5 different formats, do you?
No, I in fact don't actually own the Way of Water in any formats. I do own the first. So I own the first Avatar on Blu-ray, and that's about it. Okay, well, with all that said, how would we rate Avatar: Fire and Ash with a letter grade? And Laron Chapman, we're going to start with the negative Nancy here first. I mean, how would you rate Avatar: Fire and Ash?
It's Amber. It's like, no. I want to be kind because I don't hate this movie, but it would be hard for me. I would put the other two on before I would rewatch this one, just because I did find this one overlong. And that, unfortunately, like as you mentioned, like the last hour is the best part of this movie, but unfortunately, I checked out at hour 2, so it didn't matter. That was so you see what I'm saying? Like the length is a problem for me here with this one, because it wasn't doing more with all the extra time. You know what I mean? I felt like we were kind of going back to the well. So I will land. I'm oscillating between a C+ and a B- with this.
Just go with the C+. Go with your heart on this one. It's okay.
It's a C+ in my heart. Yes. Probably. I would the graphic. I mean it looks incredible. So it's hard. It's like with something that looks this pretty, it's but I do feel like again, story first for me, and I wasn't as involved or as engaged as I had hoped I'd be. So A+ visuals, maybe a C storyline drags this down a little bit for me.
I mean, based on what you were saying, the C for the storyline, from what I'm hearing from you, is pretty generous. So I appreciate the generosity, sir. Alexandra Bohannon, what letter grade would you give Avatar: Fire and Ash?
Yeah, I have to echo Laron. I might actually be a little harsher, actually. I'm going for a solid C. Again, visuals, A+. We don't even have to use letter grades for those visuals. They get a 4.0 and are summa cum laude. Like, we don't have to worry about that for the visuals. But it's like, yeah, that story, again, this isn't necessarily my taste of movie, and the story is just not super strong for me. As much as I have enjoyed the themes the most, I think I didn't re-listen to our previous podcast. I think this is the highest grade I've maybe given to an Avatar movie. I can't cite that for sure, but like I feel the most charitably inclined towards this movie, but like it's still, all of my problems with the franchise so far are still present. So, but yeah, so I'll give it a C.
C. It's passing. It's kind of mid. That's what that means. So you're telling me David Thewlis didn't like give it a bump and a half point for you? Because I know you got a soft spot there. I mean,
I do love him very much, but I was like, I like all of the new characters were fun. I mean, I really loved Vora. What's her name?
She's great. We haven't gotten to that. I definitely love the villain.
She's like she's compelling the entire time. She's one of my favorite parts of this film. I mean, truly, and the Quaritch stuff. There's a lot of stuff that's very interesting, but we don't spend enough time with the stuff that's actually interesting. We do another hangout movie, somewhat, which is cool. We like vibes, and like the family themes we get those in those small moments too.
But I'm with you. I do think, well, all the new characters, I think that's where I'm wondering. I'm like, I guess, hopefully this pays off more in the fourth movie. Cause that's a character. I'm like, there's a lot of meat on that bone that you were just not touching. And it's so enticing. I was like leaning in. I was like, oh, let's see where we're going. New villain, radical, like radicalized cult leader, Charlie Manson sort of thing. We're on a volcano. I was like, oh, it's right there. And then he goes back to the Whitewater, you know?
Yeah.
So, Chad, what letter grade would you give Avatar Fire and Ash?
I'm going to go B+. I'm going to go B+, for me, you know, Laron, I agree. Like, it's interesting, right? I think there is a Topher Grace edit of these two movies that like brings it into like just under 2 hours that I think would be amazing. I also think there's like a Big Jim Whole Bloody Affair, like 8-hour version of this.
Yes.
I think
that I would also want to see.
2.5. 2.5 would have been fine for me.
2.5.
I think 2.5 of this version of this story. I think I would have been at a solid B with this. I just think no matter where we were going after that 2-hour mark, I checked out. So it was going to feel like, let's get to it. You know,
totally fair. And I think you're right. Like there is then, we're in this middle area, right? Like there's, if these were released as their own trilogy and this was. Right. And you could have hit maybe some of those things that we're saying, like it was long, but there were still things I didn't get that I wanted. So we are kind of in this where, there's a really short, like super like hits the highlights. And there's probably some other version that like, you know, wraps it up differently or maybe we get, I don't know, there's some other things in the middle here. So that's why I'm not even broaching, you know, I wouldn't even like try and put on a game face and give this like an A-. Like for me, I think B+ like does it well, and it will probably still be the highest grade of the group here.
You are correct. I'm not far behind you though. I'm going to give this a solid B. The spectacle, the attention to detail, the cinematic moments, and again, I hear you, Laron. The character stuff didn't connect with you the same way it did for me. I was genuinely invested, and the most I've been invested in the characters so far. And for that, I think all of that leads to a very good movie. A++, like technical achievement. Maybe like a C+ movie that lands me in the B territory. I do think I also agree it could have probably been a full hour shorter and probably been better for it. That said, Chad, I did go see the Whole Bloody Affair, and now I want my 6.5 hour long Avatar Way of Fire and Ash bloody Ashier affair.
Like I'm just spending the day I'm spending the day in the theater. I want it's the 8-hour cut with what are all the things that were left like on the hard drives that didn't make it into that.
Which whale got entirely cut out of the film, you know?
Yes.
Well, what other things would we recommend to listeners who either do not want to watch another Avatar movie or liked the Avatar movie enough that they should watch something else? It could be a film, television show, video game, song, book, novel, what have you. And actually, Chad, I'll throw it back to you first. What would you recommend?
I mean, one, I saw the trailer for it. Yeah, they're about to. I mean, it's Christmas time. You should watch the Lord of the Rings movies anyway. But we're about to get a re-release of the Lord of the Rings trilogy in the theaters in January. Like, go see that. And then I always like to bring a book recommendation. So I'm gonna go read the Magician's trilogy by Lev Grossman. It was made into a TV series, also great, but. Go read, like, you know, if you want something where like each book adds new lore, like, you know, if you want to live in a different world that's, you know, closer to ours but still in a very different place and goes some really interesting places, you know, and you want a trilogy of books where the storyline is finished up, unlike a lot of other book stories out there that kind of go on and on forever. Cough cough Game of Thrones. Go check out the Magician trilogy.
What we're going to find out when this is all said and done is this is actually going to turn out to be less of a Lord of the Rings series and more of a Song of Ice and Fire trilogy, and that we're never going to get the fifth movie. It's always going to be coming just out of our grasp. Great recommends. Laron Chapman, what would you recommend to listeners?
I'm going to recommend two other, I guess they're trilogies now. The Dune series, the most recent one,
Good pick.
as well as the Planet of the Apes trilogy. I guess it's it's 4 films now.
I would argue that yeah, there's technically 4 films, but I would say that the first 3 movies operate structurally as a trilogy, whereas the 4th one's like, and this is what happens next.
That core trilogy, you know, of the most recent Planet of the Apes, because I think that these movies kind of explore similar themes in terms of imperialism and man versus nature and the impact of war and also just the evil of man, you know, on the natural world. I find that it explores those kinds of things in more of a framework that I respond to, you know, and so those are the versions of, I guess, these kind of, I don't know, maybe if you call them highbrow, you know, spectacles that are a little bit more my speed, that I think that touch on a lot of similar themes that this trilogy does. So
I wouldn't necessarily compare those directly, but you raise a good point, and that is actually an excellent trilogy. Maybe one of the most underrated film trilogies of the last 25 years, at least. Planet of the Apes. I think it's Rise of the Planet of the Apes.
War for the Planet of the Apes.
Hold on, no, it's Rise. Anyway, there's 3 Planet of the Apes movies. I can tell you the last one is War, and one of them is Dawn, and one of them is Rise. But they're very, very good movies. Very, very underrated, and not enough people saw them. Alexandra Bohannon, what else would you recommend alongside this film?
I would bring to the table perhaps some indigenous perspective projects. I think maybe we talked about this in our last reviews too, like Reservation Dogs, Prey. So any Sterling Harjo works, The Lowdown, which doesn't necessarily center indigenous perspectives, but it does have his vision at the helm. So that's going to be very helpful. An interesting one that it feels a weird recommend, but I think you could see the through line is if you're interested in seeing more of the pain of colonization with a powerful female lead, Killers of the Flower Moon, with a great female lead actress in that film with Lily Gladstone.
Finally getting a 4K release next year. Let's go. Yeah. Who's got that pre-ordered? All right.
On Criterion, no less. Yeah.
It's so good. And then I really enjoyed Chad's book recommendation. So a couple off the cuff for me. Annihilation, Jeff Vandermeer, made into a movie by Alex Garland that some of my friends really don't like. Caleb and I have had so many discussions about this, but even the visuals of the film version from, I think that was 2018, maybe, that Annihilation came out as a film with Natalie Portman. That would be an interesting to see, you know, how one reacts to, you know, like the environment on Pandora doesn't necessarily just want to eat you and melt your face all the time, but then seeing how you engage in science fiction environments and environmental issues, but with a different perspective, lots less schmaltz, a little more body horror for that one. And then another book recommendation that I think kind of falls in line with this, and it's never been adapted into TV or film well, which is Robert Jordan's Wheel of Time series. There are 13 books. You have your central character who's kind of like your savior, that kind of like that Jake Sully type character. Very interesting world building, cool magic system, an incredibly diverse warrior race that's very similar to like there's similarities to the Na'vi people, and then also with the long payoffs because the series is so long, and then there are sections where you're just slogging through it because it's long-winded fantasy, but you're still along for the ride, and there's excellent character development and lots of really good set piece moments that like pay off. Like you see how all of these storylines converge and you're like, oh my gosh, all of this happened to bring this one moment into fruition, and you're like, dang, that's incredible. But I think some interesting parallels with how Big Jim and Robert Jordan construct their fictional worlds. So those would be my recommendations.
And Big Jim's probably going to die before 5, and some other director is going to come in and take it over.
Exactly.
Just about to say, I hope we do not have to have
Ridley Scott.
Ridley Scott outlives James Cameron. Now, that would be hilarious. Right. 150-year-old Ridley Scott coming in to finish it up. Yeah.
Yeah. The flip of the the Terminators. Yeah.
I actually think if I was going to throw one out, I actually think Dan Trachtenberg, who did Prey and also most recently a movie we didn't get to review on this show, but Predator Badlands, which was one of my favorite like popcorn movies of the year. I think he would make it if there was going to be someone else take this over. I'm not saying there should, but if there was, I think he
would have a much more grounded approach. Yes,
I agree. Yeah. Okay. Listen,
you don't think, I mean, if we're going to go in line, right? What if just like Ellie, like if we go like Alien, we get Fincher to come in.
David Fincher, once he finishes up his Netflix Squid Game America adaptation, he's going to jump back onto the Avatar train. Okay.
You want to see a different view of Pandora?
Yeah.
David Fincher Pandora.
I mean, this is a good time considering
Fire and Ash, except for the Ash people were right. That's the David Fincher movie.
Yeah. Well, I mean, wouldn't that be kind of an interesting take though? You get 1 through 3 like under one director, one vision, and that's like almost feels very concluded. And then just totally different perspective. Send some other director to do like 4, 5, and through 10. I don't know how many more they're thinking about making.
We'll talk about this more in spoilers, but if I had my druthers and the gears of capitalism insisted we get a 4th Avatar movie, it would be super cool if that could be true. And James Cameron could also make a not Avatar movie while he's still got some like energy left to do that. More in spoilers on that, but it's possible.
I mean, I don't know if you saw it before yours, but we're getting a James Cameron directed film this spring that's not an Avatar movie.
Really?
Did you not see this trailer?
I didn't get this one.
What trailer? No.
He's doing the Billie Eilish like
yes, sorry.
Filmed, like a tour.
The tour I just went on. I just saw her in concert. He directed her concert.
He's doing
in 3D. It's an immersive experience.
Like, fully. There's never. I mean, they say it in the trailer. There's never been
anything like this.
Concert shot like this. So.
I was there in real time, so I can go again, I guess, but
I hear concerts stuff like this is the best case for buying VR headsets for movies, and I really can't articulate how much I don't want to buy a VR headset, but that's the best case. Is like I heard concert footage like when they shoot it like that is super super palatable for the format. Okay, listen, this sounds lazy, but hear me out. James Cameron has invited this comparison. It's called Avatar. There was already an Avatar Nickelodeon TV show, The Last Airbender, and it's an exceptional family program. And if I haven't recommended it before, as related in conversation with this Avatar, I'm going to do that because he's making it so hard to not draw direct comparisons. This is the movie about fire, and it's the third one. The third one is a fire. Like the show, the third book is fire. And it's got an arc with Quaritch, who is the bad guy, who's ostensibly the deeper he gets into the like hunt that he slowly starts to become change his perspective. We'll talk about more spoilers. And you're like, that feels a lot like Avatar, The Last Airbender, how the bad guy is the more invested in the hunt he gets, the more he starts to change his perspective. Is
that Netflix TV show?
No, not the garbage one. Not the garbage live action one. Not the movie directed by M. Night Shyamalan. I'm talking about the OG 3-season Nickelodeon animated show. It's still great. I do own that on Blu-ray, and I think it's absolutely a great time. You can show your kids. The episodes are 20 minutes. It's very family friendly, and it's still probably shorter than these 3 Avatar movies put together. So, there's that. It's pretty. I bet it's pretty close. I bet it's pretty close. Yeah. I'd also say if you really want to see some like anti-imperialist, anti-military industrial complex spectacle and kind of like gonzo art direction and some silliness along with really just striking visuals, I would say go watch the anime Akira. That also has a third act that goes off the rails and is truly a classic from Japan. Highly recommend that. And then lastly, listen, I mean, honestly, I think the most apples to apples comparison in terms of trilogy cappers really is actually the third Pirates of the Caribbean, The World's End, and that this movie goes the most gonzo. It is the most indulgent, has the most payoffs, and oftentimes payoffs of things you weren't really asking about. It's a great time. And I still think it's a fun movie. So check it out.
There are more plot lines in just that one Pirates of the Caribbean movie than in all of these Avatar films.
It's facts.
Facts. Exactly.
But that's also a movie where they're constantly, you're like, whoa, we're going here? I didn't know that you could even do that in this movie. Okay. All right. Cool. All right, everyone. Well, hey, if you do not want to be spoiled on Avatar, Fire and Ash, go ahead and tune out now.
You want to spread your fire across the world. You need me.
We must fight! I call upon the warrior mother. I'll kill you! I swear!
So I want to start by talking about the Fire Nation. I mean, they're called the Mengquan clan, led by Una Chaplin's Varang. So there's sort of this idea that they have severed ties with Awa because I guess a volcano erupted and blew up their Awa tree. And she has since basically become the Charles Manson type cult of personality leader, where they all just like buy into her stuff because she's very charismatic, she's very scary, and also makes them feel empowered in their anger at Awa. Pretty compelling idea, especially for the current times we live in. You know, definitely feels timely, even though it was shot in 2017. What do you think about the use of the Varang to explore this idea of sort of like charismatic leaders? Does this film do this meaningfully or not? What could it have done, or what did it do well? Laron, this is one thing I think you were eager to talk more about. So what do you think about this?
Yeah, I mean, this is an aspect of the film that I found particularly intriguing that I do wish we explored a little bit deeper. But it does feel like it's speaking to this idea of a fringe group that maybe has been disenfranchised, that feels, galvanized by, their collective rage and using that in a way that kind of reminds me a lot of even like the movement under like Killmonger in like Black Panther, where you have like they make points that we agree with, but their approach might be a little bit nihilistic and maybe not the most effective way to do it. But you also understand on a I won't say a human level because they're not human, but on a Na'vi level, like the where they're coming from in that regard, and how people turn to somebody who's willing to be bold and take charge in that regard, and actually in their minds actually make effective change and going against the status quo. And so I found that very interesting. And I do wish that we had gotten more of that, because I do feel like we are introduced to this very compelling villain and then disappears for like 45 minutes and then comes back. And I'm like, oh man, I thought we were going deep into that, and I was getting really excited. And so, so I do think that it's very effective. And as you mentioned, very timely with right now. People turn to a charismatic figure, you know what I mean, who's willing to say the things that people think out loud that they wouldn't dare by themselves. So, and they feel unified in that anger.
Yeah, but also I'd say when she comes back, she's not like, she is so low on the totem pole of things that matter. You know what I mean? When she comes back at the end, I was a little disappointed by that, if I'm being honest. That's my take. I don't know. Chad, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, the most interesting thing of her to me was, we've been told through now, through 2 and a third movies of how this whole planet is interconnected. We see this through lots of storytelling. We see this visually multiple times in lots of different ways. The final shot of this movie is literally, showing how the whole world is lit up. So I think this idea of this group of people like willingly cutting themselves off from the Force, whatever kind of correlations we want to make with this, really interesting idea, right? That they were they couldn't see beyond that. They didn't buy into the, oh yeah, there must have been a reason for this cataclysm, right? A lot of other tribes and people that we've meet, right, when bad things happen to them, it's kind of right, it's the way of Awa, and I just can't see it, right? And they don't buy into that. Super compelling for that. It never really goes beyond that to me, though, right? Like, I mean, they introduced them by calling them raiders, which again, if there was a thing of like, oh, there's scarcity, we no longer have our tree, right? Like, we can only survive by stealing what we need from other tribes, right? Like, there's something interesting there. But like, they attack that airship, and then they just burn it. Like, they're not stealing water, they're not stealing food, they're not stealing weapon, right? Like, there's a lot of other things that we, again, lots of other movies and things that we would have seen. So I don't really understand, like, from the get-go, I understand why she's probably let down, but from the get-go, I just don't understand the motivation of, like, what are they doing? How are they surviving? Is it just, do they just represent a nihilistic force and that's it? If so, then they kind of serve their purpose in that way. And again, if we buy into that, like, that the creator of this world is like put them there for a specific reason. The one thing that I will say is, like, I'm glad she survived. Like, I'm glad we don't really see the death of too many villains here, right? But to your point, there's a final story here. We can get into it. I think that actually the ending was a little surprising for me in that we didn't see her die. We didn't see her redeemed. We kind of just got her, like, she gets to live another day, where I think this sets it up for, like, a really interesting story down the road that hopefully we hope we get to see in some medium. So I don't think I was necessarily as disappointed. I think I would have been more disappointed if they did kill her off, but I just think the setup, like, doesn't pay off from the jump, and we just don't really. It felt. I don't know. It felt like they had an interesting idea and didn't know where to take it.
Which is crazy, because it seems to me like I'm like, oh, the pieces are there. Like, just like make that the even like the marriage. I say marriage, but like the joining of forces between this, like, radical cult of personality figure with the military industrial complex to exterminate, like, the indigenous forces. That's like also spiritually connected. I'm like, that's like, there's an idea there. And they even, like, it's a little silly, but one of the things I both laughed at the most, because I think it is funny, but it's also feels kind of true to reality in 2025, is the scene where Quaritch is teaching her how to shoot the guns. They doing the flamethrower, and this is where I feel like James Cameron just was like, yes, that is a silly image, but it's very striking and memorable. It is this person who is learning the new weapons of war, and combining forces with someone who actually wants to kill her. Let's remember, the humans want to come to the planet and run the Na'vi off the volcano. Like, but she is so willing in the short term to embrace the power of the weaponry and the technology that she will she will let that go, because so that she can get the vindication of exterminating these other Na'vi who have hurt her. And I also still feel like the backstory about, like, her motivations still be pretty unclear myself. For me, I'm like, oh, that's the story. I thought like when we finally got to the point where they were working together, I clicked in my head. I was like, oh, this is where we're going. And that was why it was very bizarre to me that we ended up just going back to the Way of Water with the space whales again. I'm not necessarily mad about it, because in some ways I think it does kind of put a much more definitive conclusion on the ideas of the Way of Water. But it was also certainly the moment where I was like, oh, okay, well, this is where I feel like we've been here, versus we were going somewhere different and we decided to go back to what we already know. So, Chad, to your point, I'm kind of like, all right, I want that story that we didn't get in this movie, honestly. Yeah. Like, I super want that. And I hope because she's still alive, that means that Cameron intends to tell that at some point. Yeah. Alex, what did you think of this?
I think it's really important to see a contrast to the largely peaceful, but they're still warrior people, but they have, like, a very, in tune with nature and their environment, people, and seeing a contrast to those Na'vi, I think it's really important in this specific clan. And I mean, it just goes to show how it's interesting how capitalists can leverage disenfranchised people to pull off aims that are counter to like anything that those disenfranchised people would actually want, but they're able to like make this temporary a partnership or agreement, or literally get in bed with each other to, you know, it's literal and metaphorical that they're in bed together, to like try and achieve their aims. To everyone's point, just kind of echoing, I was surprised when, you know, she's this very strong, she's like the clan chief, she's the strong female character, and then he's like, you need a co-leader, and then he comes in and fully like embraces the way of their tribe, which is very interesting. But then she just like takes a huge back seat to everything else that happens after, which was very surprising to me. One would think that if you're carrying her characterization consistently through this, you wouldn't think that she would just kind of go along with it, but it seemed like she just became kind of almost lackeyish to Quaritch towards the end. So that was that. I'm equally as disappointed with how all that went down as everyone else here. But yeah, I think there was an attempt, and the attempt was not necessarily successful, but I'm glad it's there, and hopefully something more successful can come out of it now that we've laid some groundwork and we didn't kill her on screen. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at on it.
It's surprising too, because James Cameron has a history of actually being really great at, you know, badass, you know,
Sarah
like
Connor.
women. Yeah, Sarah Connor. I mean, Sigourney Weaver in Aliens. You know, like he's got a track record of usually being really, really effective at writing women in those types of roles.
Yeah, exactly.
Weird. So yeah, it was very bizarre, I guess. Well, I mean, speaking of characters not dying, Quaritch not dead, right? Like, we didn't see a body. His arc is not done, right? So
unless he is dead, murdered on screen in front of me, that man is still fine.
And even then,
he's Michael Myers.
Still,
even then, put him in another Avatar. Who knows? Like,
he's got Avatar Horcruxes everywhere.
I mean, listen, Stephen Lang is so good at playing that character, though. I'm like, yeah, man, bring him back as much as you want. I'm here for it. I do love, though, that again, even with that character, there's the drama. I think he's really interesting to watch. Not only is he like just a super mega evil son of a bitch that you hate, like pro-military, follows orders, obsessed with the mission, but you can see how Jake Sully is not winning him over to his point of view, but you can see his commitment to exterminating Jake Sully is making him become more native, which is slowly starting to erode like the heart of his mission.
And the credibility he has with like the larger military structures, his bosses.
These movies are about him becoming radicalized. That's really interesting. That's really interesting. And I'm like, I want to say, like, I think this is the thing the movie does really well. I mean, I don't know. What do you guys think about use of Quaritch in this third film?
I mean, you mentioned in the second one, because I had issues with, my biggest qualm with the second one was actually the use of his character, because I did feel like it was a retread, but you've argued in favor of that. I remember that you thought he was effectively used in that one, where here it does feel like there's at least an extra kernel, an extra layer here.
No pun intended.
Well, right. Yeah. An extra, like, there's an extra point of intrigue with this character where it's like, okay, there is another layer of exploration here in his evil, you know, and how he's leveraging his evil, you know, and similarly doing something that Sully did, but in the malevolent opposite of that, you know, with the Na'vi people, you know, integrating himself in it to do something else, but that's to their detriment instead. And I found that, you know, a little bit more interesting for his character here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think maybe that's what the IMDb AI potentially generated synopsis is getting at, the new moral focus. Maybe that's Varang and Quaritch in this Na'vi tribe. Like that's me throwing a bone to the AI synopsis there.
Give them no bones. Give them no
zero
bones.
bones. No, I think Quaritch is I think in terms of new ideas, him and Varang are the most interesting things to occur in this film. Yeah, I think it's, she gives him there's this there's this the imagery of like her shooting. I've seen it apparently in like maybe some like ancient types of like drug like ceremonies. You shoot tobacco up the nose, and that's kind of like I've seen that seems like very evocative of that kind of thing where she's in like her tent and she kind of seduces him and makes him trip on Pandora acid, and I just all of that worked for me very well. And then we ditch it. It's just it's a shame.
And the implications of their union is
right.
is the most interesting thing, and that's weird. That's what should have, like, again, as we keep saying here, is like that's what the story should have been, because there's a lot to mine there, and there's a lot to pull from in that regard, even right now. So
there's so much they could, right? Because if let's say they have a kid. Right, that's motivation for him kind of seemingly moving past Spider, right? Because it's like this body's child as opposed to his memory, right? The guy that he was before he was reborn in this avatar, right? Like, again, really interesting thread to take it from there. This is where, I agree with you, Laron, on like the length thing where I don't know why we had the whole Jake being taken captive, right? Like, I think there's an interesting thing there if that becomes the final climax, right? And then like they find a way to have the final battle of the movie, somehow all the forces align, and like that's the final thing, right? To your point, Caleb, earlier, like Luke doesn't fight the Emperor and then leave, and we have another battle on Endor, right? Like, and that's what this, like, we have two battles going on at the same time, which works out really well.
Yes.
This kind of these consecutive battles of, it either feels like Quaritch has that conversation with Jake and then either, again, goes truly native or has some type of redemption arc where he's able to see the planet and turns against, but like, it's all from that point on, it's just middling. Like it's rehashes, it's thing. Even at the end, we don't really know his motivation of like why he lets go. Like he knows that he's lost, I guess, but I don't, there's a lot of stuff. And while it was great, like it was great explosions and things like that, it just wasn't, I don't know. Like we either ended it in the camp, the military camp, or we never needed to go there to begin with.
Right.
Like, I don't know why we needed both of those things.
I found it very strange to me. Quaritch is obsessed with Jake. I thought this was just his personal, like, heartfelt vendetta. But then everyone having, like, basically a giant banner that's, like, rolling out, we got him, like, in this huge, like, press conference, and everyone's so happy about it, and he's on display in, like, a glass, like, holding cell. I thought that was just so strange, because I've always thought that Quaritch's obsession with Jake was, like, oh, this is... he has like this vendetta that's basically more of like an Ahab white whale situation, obsessed, that kind of thing. And to see that like the whole camp is also, and they're like, oh, because he's a traitor to the human race, is like, why do you guys care? Like, at this point.
So I will say this is where context from The Way of Water does come in handy. So basically he's basically seen like the Osama bin Laden.
Okay, so he's been bin Laden.
Oh, he's like enemy number one of the company and stuff like that. Like the first, before they go to the water tribe in Way of Water, it establishes that like he has been attacking all their transports and buildings and stuff like that.
I completely forgot all about that.
There's a whole bunch of propaganda, right? Essentially, like all these people have bought into the propaganda that the company has been put out there. Because I thought it was the same, and the fact that like everyone's recording it, like
it's like posting it to what future Twitter, like.
I mean, I'll put it this way: I actually thought that was pretty cool because that's something we haven't seen in these movies before. Whereas the actual final battle, while I did enjoy it, and I will say the actual final battle where it's Jake and Quaritch and Spider jumping around on the floating thing, that was like, I was getting goosebumps. That was so cool. It reminded me of like a Star Wars lightsaber fight, like from the prequels or something. Even though in general, I was like, this is like if you combine the climax of the first movie where everyone just shows up and The Way of Water and one battle with the big floating space thing. So I would have, to your point, Chad, I think I love the camp stuff. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
But to your point, we should have made that the final thing and maybe even cliffhanged to the next one if necessary, rather than like, all right, we're going to do this. And then because it just like I was like, I did not realize until halfway through the movie, I was like, oh, we're going back to the space whales again. Oh, that's a thing we're going back to. Okay. Well, I don't. Yeah, I didn't think I needed more. I want to see more of the volcano people. But okay, all right, whatever. Yeah, again,
to the point of like the humans, like just make all the human aside from the people that are living up in the one the handful of doctors from the first movie that are still around. To have that one guy like with the bulldozer, like it I don't know. It would have made more sense that instead of Jake going after Turok, like Turok senses it and comes in. He's the one that breaks Jake out of it, and they reunite. I don't, right? Like,
James Cameron would have come up with a cooler version of that same climax, I guess.
Yes,
like
It just, it felt like they want to have their cake and eat it too. Like that's where it felt like we need two different battles. And again, like why are both like. Why is everything? I still don't understand why everything's also at night. Like, okay, we get a couple of daytime battles. We get this nighttime battle, which I understand, back at the camp. But then they introduce, and again, maybe you picked up on this, Caleb. Like, it felt like they had to just throw this throwaway line of like, oh, during the next eclipse.
Yeah, the eclipse.
Like that's when that's when this is going to happen. I was like, did we ever hear about the eclipse before? I don't.
It was mentioned in The Way of Water. That's where you're like, oh, this is actually Way of Water Part 2. But it felt like it was combined with a different movie because there's like a whole plot that feels like new material, and then there's that stuff. I get like the eclipse just seemed to be like as a reason to do it in the dark. Whereas I don't know if I got a little bit more and that like the eclipse was something else. And that's why now, what's her name? Kiri, the Sigourney Weaver clone. Space Jesus. Yeah.
Like there's something about the eclipse and that's what enables her to hack back into the thing. Like, I know there's a bunch of these threads that like now I'm just having to come up with like headcanon to like make it all make sense.
Yeah, a lot of headcanon involved.
I think I think that it should have just been shorter and more focused, I guess, if I was going to give a note. And I think the Ash volcano tribe was what got the short end of the stick. I also, but I do want to give credit. And I don't know if you guys feel the same way. I was genuinely leaning into all the Natiri wants to kill Spider, Jake like trying to protect Spider, but also Quaritch wants Spider and Quaritch wants to kill Jake. And like, I thought all of that was super juicy. Like cause I was like, I don't really know where Spider's going to end up in all this. He seems to kind of like have, generally favor the Solway family, but also obviously there's this connection with Quaritch and I don't know, all that stuff was super fun to me. I really enjoyed that plot. And that was sort of like for me, that was the big upside of that big final climax is they built it around those three characters in a way that I thought was pretty effective.
Yeah.
Even if it was the eclipse thing, because that was not my favorite.
Yeah.
Well, I had more to talk about, but we've been going on. We're going long. So let's wrap up with this fundamental question. This is James Cameron's been doing this since 2009. Actually, it's really been doing this since like basically the 2000s. He's been working on this series for like 25 years. The first two films were massive successes. The public interest for the series, from my perspective, and I could be wrong because never gonna bet against James Cameron, but it seems to be waning. I don't know that many people personally in my life who were super amped about this movie. We aren't gonna know for sure until the dust is settled. And again, the opening weekend is solid, just like the first two. What makes these movies huge wins at the box office isn't the first weekend; it's they have legs that they stick around for a long time. Again, for me, creatively, this is where James Cameron seems to be retreading water for the first time in his entire career, or at least from a narrative perspective. So I guess that my thing is, do you think that James Cameron has anything left to explore in Pandora that he really like, or would you rather him go make a different movie? Because the guy's 71 years old. He's still got juice. I mean, Scorsese's in his age, still making movies, but like, he's also not getting any younger. My whole thing with him is no one makes movies like him. So I want to see him making movies, but is Avatar where I want to see the rest of his career? And Chad, as the big pro Avatar guy on the panel, other than me, I would love to get your take. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't see James Cameron going and making a Richard Linklater movie right now, right? Like, I just, so if we're gonna get these, like, this type of movie, which is what it's, right? Him pushing technology, him like, give me whether he is directing, whether he's just producing, whether he builds the largest private production studio in New Zealand, and now it just like oversees a ton of these types of movies. Like, I think he's done enough. I think there's a ton of interesting things in this world, in the lore that he set up, that definitely justifies more movies in this world. Whether he is 100% at the helm or just involved or something like that, I kind of don't care. But I don't see them stopping. I don't, and I absolutely think that they've done enough to get people interested in doing more around this world. I just think it's too, everything that we've said today, like, there's too many interesting places that you can only take this story. But again, like, I feel like we've only seen maybe one, right? These people fast travel all over the place and literally believe that they're not actually traveling that far. I think there's so many other things on Pandora that we could be looking at that I want to see more. If you just said we're going to get another Avatar movie every 3 years for the next 15 years, like, I'm in. I'm down. Bring it on. I just want to eat it all up.
All the Pandora, all the time. Alexandra, Bohannon, what do you think?
I think he should. Yeah, I like Chad's perspective of like, there's a certain point where these films could probably take the vision that he's established in this very strong perspective and direction and go along without him, because I want to see his perspective and his hand on other big blockbustery kind of ideas. I want to see what his perspective on other big spectacle could be. What are other ways he can push the envelope on technology now that, the Weta stuff, like, or is it Weta? I don't know the pronunciation of the technology, but the stuff that was, made to make Way of Water, that now all exists. And so just let the machine keep going. And I want to see where he could innovate and push next. What is his big next idea that could push us into that next level of cinematic achievement, if that is what we expect from a James Cameron film? We're not necessarily hanging our hats on him being an expert at dialogue or great at like character beats or story, really strong story or what have you.
You guys are crazy. His dialogue is great. I don't understand that criticism.
Sigourney Weaver says, "I'm a clone. This sucks" in this movie. I'm just going to say, I was like,
you guys are crazy. I think that is a very intentional writing choice.
Is it? Yes. I guess so.
It's very memorable. It works. It articulates. I'm not going to sit here and say he's a master writer. I'm just saying he has a writing style that is very him, and I think it's great.
Yeah, I did feel like this movie was maybe a little more like kind of wink,
aware of it.
Yeah, and then he was like, "Oh, well, this is awkward," says Courage.
Oh,
like,
that was great. That was great.
I
Chef's
hated
kiss.
that.
Oh, really? Oh, that was funny. The one thing I wish they would drop is they just say bro a lot. That's the one thing I'm like, okay, you could probably say bro a little less. Yeah.
Yeah, but
there's
somebody...
he plays the hits here, right? I mean, like Kiri basically says, "Get away from her, you bitch," but is like, I mean, I think it's essentially like, "Get away from my mom, you bitch." Like, it's a little too on the nose.
Yeah,
sometimes
there are just moments on the dialogue that
I'm not gonna, like I said, I'm not gonna sit here and say defend this as like master writing. All I'm saying is no one else does it like him, and for what he's trying to do, I think it works really well. But like I also would never put him up against like the great writers of Hollywood either. It's not his thing.
Yeah, I would. So all of that to say, I'd be very interested to see if he were given freedom from Avatar. I mean, or even like, what's something interesting? Okay, we've gone under the ocean, we've been in the trees. What's another? Maybe we can explore stuff with sand, or what's sand technology like? I mean,
sand. It's rough and porous, and it gets everywhere.
Have you seen Dune?
Where can we go next for some kind of innovation? And
what you're saying is this was a huge missed opportunity. Why was the final climax not in the middle of an active volcano? Because that's what the name would imply, and that would have been pretty cool.
The title made me think that's what we were doing. I thought we were going to be dealing with like lava people or like some kind of
ash,
I felt like I was a little underwhelmed on the
bait and switch.
Can't get to the volcano.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's in the fore, like the background. It's not really like front and center.
Yeah.
Well, when you do see it, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. So something like that, or just I don't know, what would be his, what's another kind of space epic, or I don't know, just something else.
I think like for him, I think he doesn't. He's built his world, and he's retweet everything you guys said. He's built this world. Let someone else run with it while he does something else. And I don't think his next movie needs to be, I need to build a whole world to tell a story. I just want to see him like go tell a story. And maybe it's even something I wouldn't be my favorite thing, but I would even be willing to say if there's an established IP that he has a strong idea on that he could jump into, like Alien, like he did with Aliens. I'd even be game for that. I know like he did say recently in a Hollywood Reporter story, he did say that that headline for the Hollywood Reporter story it's a great profile view. James Cameron is ready to move beyond Avatar, and in quotes, "I've got other stories to tell."
Yeah.
And that's encouraging to hear him say that, because when Avatar 1 came out, he was like, every story I could possibly ever want to tell can be told under the framework and paradigm of Avatar. And, after 15 years, and also I would not be surprised if he's starting to feel his mortality a little bit, especially losing John Landau at such a young age. He's probably like, I only got so many years left, huh? Yeah, maybe I should like do something different. I don't know. Laron, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. I just feel like, honestly, I'm obviously not clamoring for more Avatar. I'll be there day one if it's there, because I do support him as a director. But this franchise in particular, like in his filmography, is at the bottom of my favorites of the movies that he's made. I'm definitely more of an Aliens or or like I mentioned, The Abyss, of that era of him. I think I would like to see what else he has up his sleeve outside of this, because I do feel like I have seen what he can do with this. I don't think that he's going to wow me in 2 more movies and make me say, oh, that's what I was missing from the 9 hours that I spent with this movie.
Yeah.
Like I just like what is here is what's impressive about this right now is what is going to be impressive about it later to me. So I'd rather see him mine a different narrative, just something different to go out with a capper. Like Kubrick went out with Eyes Wide Shut. It's one of my favorite movies, and it was polarizing at the time, but now people have given it a new life, and kind of look at it with a new perspective. So I feel like, what is his going to be? I don't want it to be Avatar. I want it to be something else.
Neteri, I don't need in 2 movies Neteri to have more pores. Like these people are beautiful. It all looks right. Like, let's do something else. Like James Cameron's Elder Scrolls movie. Like, he tells the story of like the sky. Like, he's the person that could direct an Elder Scrolls movie, like Skyrim or Morrowind.
Which one takes longer? An Elder Scrolls movie directed by James Cameron, Cameron or Elder Scrolls 6, Alex? Which one comes first? I'm not sure what the answer is to that.
I don't either, actually.
Yes, let's team him with Mike Flanagan, and he can do the Dark Tower series. That's what I want to say.
That's good.
I'd watch that.
I mean, I would definitely watch that.
Yeah.
Because I think as much as I love Flanagan, I won't name any names, but Laron knows I had a conversation with a local filmmaker recently, and he was bad mouthing Flanagan, and it really hurt me because I was like, that guy's written some of my favorite, especially television, but even the movies are profoundly emotionally impactful, spiritually impactful on how I look at things. So I was hurt, but then it really had me thinking. I was like, you know what? I will give unnamed filmmaker this. He does not have the visual flair of a Steven Spielberg or a James Cameron or even a Peter Jackson. His pros are so good. So maybe, let him do the script work and the producing work and let JC, Jim Cameron, do the directing. I'm on board. I like that idea.
Yeah.
Well, we could talk about Pandora for 3 more hours. All I'll say this is, damn it, I still can't get over the fact that in the press tour for 2, James Cameron, he was like, 4. God damn, that one was a fucking, I can't wait to I hope I get to make that movie. He sold me with that line that I want to see the 4th one, but I would be super cool if he was not the one who directed it, if that makes sense. I would rather him go do other things. Like you said, Laron, to your point, as much as I do love the Avatar movies, I also it would feel weird for an Avatar movie to be the last thing he made.
Yeah.
So there are our thoughts on Avatar, Fire and Ash. What did you think of Avatar, Fire and Ash? Well, if you're watching this on YouTube, you can comment below. Let us know. We're still new in the YouTube game. We're not even at version 1.0. I should be very clear. This is Caleb's trying to throw some stuff together to experiment a little bit. We're in version 0.5, the beta of the Cinematic Schematic on YouTube. But you can help us out by commenting below, like the video, subscribe to us. So that way you can get each episode delivered to you when it releases on video. You can also hit us up on social media. I kind of abandoned X. I haven't set up a Cinematropolis Blue Sky. That might happen. But right now we're doubling down on Instagram, which is probably not the smartest thing. But for right now, probably Instagram and Facebook are the best places to follow us on social media at the Cinematrop, or email us at thecinematropolis@gmail.com. Chad Parizman, thank you for joining us, sir. Where can people follow you online?
Thank you for having me. I am C. Parizman on all of the social networks that I want to be found at. So you can LinkedIn, Instagram. Those are the best places to get in touch with me.
Are you on Letterboxd?
I am on Letterboxd, yes.
Okay.
I don't know. What is I don't really see what my name is. I think, no, yeah. I'm Big Chad P on Letterboxd.
Follow Big Chad P.
Incredible.
Yes.
I mean, my original screen name for a solid decade was Big Cal Kenobi. So I have no room to ever make fun of anyone's screen name ever. So there you go. Alexandra Bohannon, where can people find you and your work online?
You can find me on Instagram largely at by Alex Alex Bohannon Bohannon, my name, which that's my handle, and you can find me where I mostly am talking about these articles I write for Luxury Magazine. So you can also find the magazine as well. Those will be articles that are cross-posted to my feed. And then I'm also on Letterboxd, but I cannot remember my username on Letterboxd. So next time I'm on a show, I'll remember it and I'll mention it as well.
We'll drop it there for you.
Yeah.
Laron Chapman, where can people find you online?
Well, you can follow us, obviously, for more episodes here on the cinematropolis.com, as well as my film review column, Real Insights with Laron Chapman. And you can follow me on Letterboxd at black_Cine_man.
Yes, excellent. You can also find me on all the places at C Masters Talk. That's letter C Masters Talk. Letterboxd would be great. Instagram. Again, I'm also kind of trying to buff my Instagram a little bit, mostly because I'm I have officially totally abandoned X. I need to, maybe Blue Sky too. You can check me out there. But really, just as Laron said, thecinematropolis.com. Go there. New episodes coming out weekly right now in the middle of a sprint for the holiday season. And man, Laron, we get right through this holiday season. And you know what the first thing is? Right when would normally say, hey, it's time for us to take a short break. Well, we got good news for 2026, ladies and gentlemen. The Bone Temple is coming out early. And
on my birthday.
on Laron's birthday, So we're going to be rocking and rolling for the next few weeks ahead. But check us out, cinematropolis.com. Again, YouTube. Check us out there. Thank you all for joining us. If you're viewers, if you're watching this, when the episode comes out, it is Christmas Eve. Whether you celebrate Hanukkah, Christmas, or another holiday, we hope it's been a wonderful holiday season. We hope you continue to enjoy the holiday season and wrap up your year strong. And we'll be excited to continue the conversations on film with you throughout the end of the year and right into 2026. Thank you so much for joining us. We will catch you again next time, very tentatively with the review of Marty Supreme. Stay tuned to our social media channels.